Welcome to CK4RC.
Hey, welcome back to CK4RC. Let's see if we can get in our element today, and do a quick how-to video. So, that's what we're going to do. Hey, listen, all the jokes can't be winners, all right? I mean, I do what I can. So, we've got a brass skid plate that we are going to mount. We're going to swap out the stock plastic skid plate on the Element Enduro 24 today. This is going to be the last piece of our Element Enduro 24 build. And just to get a little bit of weight down low, hopefully add some stability, because as you remember from the build video, I did kind of jack up the ride height a little bit. So let's get some weight down low, kind of counteract that a little bit. So we're going to get into that. You might also be wondering, how does this shirt tie into this video? Glad you asked. First of all, you see that green stripe on there? Green shirt. Hey, see how that works? And also, if you're not already aware, Element puts out the best packaging in the game. And these Element Enduro 24s come, the inside of the box is a scale garage. And my scale garage is bigger than yours. And I've already done a video about why and how that's true. Anyway, onlyrcs.com. Get great RC gear. Use my discount code CK4RC for 20% off your whole order. I'm going to drop it down below, just like I double down below, just like I always do, because right down below, that's the likes and the subscribes and the ding dongs. Click that stuff too. Go ahead and do it right there. If you liked my dad joke at the beginning, click that like. If you didn't like it, still click the like. The thumbs down is just rude. Don't do that. And then also, yeah, don't forget to subscribe and the ding dong. So, whatever. Let me flip this camera around. Let's get to work. All right. So, the reason I wanted to do this particular video as a how-to is because skid plates, yeah, they're specific to a vehicle, but they actually, there are some universal truths that go along with them. So, one of the first things is you're going to see these screws on the bottom. These are going to be in different places on different rigs, and they're going to serve different purposes. For this one right here, it holds this divorce transfer case that the drive shafts hook up to. It holds that down in place. So we're going to unscrew those and loosen that stuff up. The other thing to keep in mind, typically your suspension links are going to attach to the skid plate as well. And a lot of times, all of your suspension links will attach to your skid plate. This one's a little bit different as to where the upper links actually attach to the frame. So that's kind of a unique mounting option there. So anyway, the reason I'm pointing this stuff out, because you can clearly see it, but the reason why I want to mention it specifically is because, like on your SCX 24, there will be two different length of screws that you take out of your skid plate for the ones that mount it to the frame, the ones that mount the links to the skid plate. So throughout the whole truck, most of the hardware is universal, but specifically with that skid plate, you're going to run into, in specific locations, there are longer screws. So just pay attention to where those long screws come from when you take those out. As long as you know where the long ones go, the other screws go everywhere else throughout the truck. So with all that, got my handy dandy Phillips head screwdriver, because that's how all the hardware is on this Enduro 24. And again, not crazy about Phillips head hardware. It's just not as precise. Precision milled. I don't know what people say about that. They're easier to round out and strip. And if you use the wrong size screwdriver, you could get yourself in real big trouble. So anyway, these three screws are out. And now that divorce transfer case is all loosey-goosey and everything's falling apart. Whoa! I'm going to need that later probably. So I'll just hang on to that. Oh no, everything's falling apart. Don't worry. When you take your skid plate off, everything falls apart. That's normal. If you're not expecting that, you should be. So nothing to freak out about there. That is all normal, standard procedure. So what I'm going to do next is just get these screws taken out of the frame. That way I can drop it down a little bit. And it'll make it a little bit easier to access these screws that are holding in the links. So just like that, just like that, just like that. So we took out 3 screws to get the drivetrain off the skid plate. We took out 4 screws to get the skid plate free from the chassis. Now something else to know, this skid plate, it's not just going to pop out all willy-nilly. As you'll see, these little tabs right here on the skid plate, these actually slide into these holes on the frame and kind of hold it in place. So I'm actually glad that I didn't slip that out yet, because see how these 3 screws are spaced very specifically. They are not in a central location by any means. So I need to make sure that when I'm mounting the new one, I have it facing the right way. So the screws, I need to be facing upwards whenever I get the new one in there. So you got to just kind of pry the frame rail a little bit, and that skid will just slide right out. And now I can get easier access to these screws that are holding the suspension links in place. There we go. Got to get my fingers in there so I can get that screw out of the way. Come on now. Now I'm just throwing stuff. Basically like I'm throwing a tantrum, but I'm actually not. I'm in a pretty good mood, believe it or not. That thing just doesn't want to come out of there. I've got church bells going off, and I'm just getting real careless, real reckless. Why won't this thing come out? There we go, finally. I knew it was done, I just couldn't get it out. So I'm going to take these off just like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to get this swapped out and get things put back together real quick. I'll do that off camera. But what I want to do is I want to get this thing free, because I want to show how much of a weight difference, there we go, between the stock plastic skid plate and the aftermarket brass skid plate. Just so you can see how significant of a difference it makes. And you can decide for yourself if this work is actually worth it or not. And by the way, I mean, we're, what, 7 minutes into this build right now, into this swap? And I'm almost, halfway done. So the short answer to that question is, yeah, it's pretty much worth it, because it's just so simple. We've taken out 11 screws, and all we have to do is put those 11 screws back in. And then we've got heavyweight down low where you want it on a crawler. And that's all there is to it. So I'm going to get my handy dandy scale, get that bad boy turned on, and let it settle in. There we go. All right. So stock plastic skid plate, look at that, 2.3 grams. The brass skid plate, 14 grams, 14.1. So that is a significant weight difference. Let's just see what the rig itself weighs. I don't know if I can, yeah, it's not going to work right now because it's too unstable. And my scale isn't quite long enough. So I don't think I'm going to be able to, actually, you know what? I think I can. There we go. The whole rig is 182. Well, that's without the skid plate. Let me throw the skid plate on here. It also doesn't have a battery or body on there right now either. But that skid takes it up to 196.1. So not bad. Not bad at all. All right, I am going to go ahead and get this swapped out. And the big thing to keep in mind that I will be paying attention to whenever I get all this stuff back in place is making sure that the drive shaft is phased properly and all that good stuff. That way everything spins the way it's supposed to and nothing gets bound up. So that's what I'm going to do, and I will do that off camera, and I'll come back and show you the finished product. So stick around, and I'll be right back. And we're right back in business. In half hour, I got that done. Now, the big thing to keep in mind when you're working on these things is make sure you keep your cool. Don't rush the job, because while it's a fairly simple process, I took out 11 screws, I put 11 screws back in. It's not a huge job. Working with these tiny parts, you drop things. So make sure you've got magnets around, make sure that you've got good lighting, make sure that you've got good patience. Because if you do lose your cool, you're gonna end up breaking something, and then that's just bad for business. So don't do that. Stay patient. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out real quick before we wrap up today, I did mention something, and I don't want it to fly over anybody's head, and I want to make sure that I come back and touch back on it. I mentioned whenever I took out the transfer case, how the drive shafts had come apart, and I said that whenever I got them back together, I wanted to make sure that they were phased properly. What I mean by that is you can see the knuckle right here. It's pointing that direction. And then up here, there's another knuckle on the other end of that drive shaft. You want those knuckles lined up and facing the same way as each other. You want to do it in the front, you want to do it in the back. So as long as those knuckles are lined up, then it's phased properly. And you're not going to have any issues with your drivetrain, your drive shafts, whenever you go to give it some juice. So that's it. This thing is done. I'm not going to put the body back on it yet. I want to do the full reveal in the competition video that will be coming next, or coming shortly. I don't know if it's going to drop next or not, but it'll be coming soon. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll see if this work was worth it. Because to be honest with you, I don't know. Enduro 24s don't have a huge presence in the micro scene. So we'll see if this was worth it or not. If not, I'll tell you. And then don't do that. But if it was, good little investment. So we'll see. But thanks for sticking around. Hit that quadfecta before you go. All the ding dongs down here with the like, subscribe, comment, and then hit that share button. Let's get more people to the channel and let's grow this thing. I've got some good stuff coming. I've got some competition videos instead of just unboxing and testing videos. I know that I've done a lot of those and they're fun, but let's see how rigs stack up to each other. That's what I'm looking forward to. And you see this sunshine over my shoulder over here? The weather's getting better. So I'm going to start unboxing some of these bashers, and we're going to go out and we're going to let those bad boys rip. Let them eat. You know what I mean? I don't know what I mean. So if you do, that makes one of us. But anyway, thanks for coming back. I will see you guys soon.